All right, team, we're back. We are back in Miami. It's been a week since the Chicago Marathon. Awesome time. I did a little kind of vlog style I dropped earlier this week, which obviously anyone who's been following, I'm not an editor. I'm not good at that stuff. I'm usually a one-take Jake type of guy. I go, I press play, and then I spit facts. So I'm going to continue to do that with this one this week. Wanted to just break down a little bit more about how I felt about the Chicago race. Coming off back-to-back blocks. Obviously, Eugene was in April. I dropped to 2:59. Chicago, PR, 2:54. Very happy about it. Was training kind of towards a 2:50. And I'm going to get into kind of why I think that I went on the higher end of my goal, which was 2:50 to 2:54 rather than the lower end. But we'll get into that. Wanted to talk about, like, from someone who, this is first Chicago, this medal right here. Nice little texture to it. Kind of simple, which I like. The purple, they had a lot of finisher jackets and different stuff. I didn't love the gear, to be honest. I didn't buy anything. I thought this was the best thing, and this came in our welcome bag. Was pretty thrilled about this shirt. I think this is the best thing. But as I was saying, from someone who hasn't done a ton of world majors, this is my second star. I did Boston a couple years back, which, again, if you've been following, you know that. But really fast, flat course. There is a sneaky little hill the last kilometer, which I think, kind of caught me a bit. Definitely had some bonkage, or a minimal bonkage, but a little bit there towards the end. I dropped like a 7-minute mile. That last 40 to 42K split was like 7:03, and I was really sick about it, to be honest. But I just want to go like soup to nuts from someone coming in out of state like myself. The flight from Miami to O'Hare was fine, standard like 3 hours. But what caught me off guard was the Uber from O'Hare to the city itself. Like, I stayed right across from Grant Park. Like, thank you, Alzheimer's Association. They did a great job with the Congress Plaza Hotel. I literally could throw a rock to the starting line, it felt. So that logistically solved all of my issues. I couldn't imagine taking an Uber or public transportation on a world major, especially when I'm trying to go PR. It's just not something that I want to do. So I suggest, if you're running this race for speed and you want to do, which I think you can, obviously it's known for that as far as, at least compared to the other world majors, I would just try and stay somewhere pretty close and get on it in January. I booked my flights January. Just as soon as I knew I had a bib through Alzheimer's, I was booking flights and hotels through their block. But yeah, so just take into account O'Hare to kind of the start line area is about an hour to 35-minute Uber, depending on traffic. Which for me, living in Miami, my Uber's 15 minutes. From Boston, it was always like 20, 25 minutes, depending on traffic, to Logan from where I grew up. So that kind of threw me. The expo's great. A ton of different vendors. It did close at 6 p.m. They were cutting people off, so we got there a little bit later on Friday, just because I had to wait for Sandra to fly in. So we got kicked out. I was a little bummed about that. I wanted to see a little bit more. But cool expo. I mean, Boston seemed a little bit more crowded and just congested. This one seemed a little bit more open, which I thought was nice. I'm trying to think. I mean, getting into the race itself, I mean, standard pre-marathon stuff, all the same, what I'm eating, when I'm going to bed, trying to go to sleep at 8 or 9, trying to get my 7 or 8 hours. I was more nervous before this race than I'd been before any of my other 3 marathons, and yeah, this was number 4. So I would say, I fell asleep. I woke up pretty early. I think it was 3:30, and I was trying to shoot for 4, and I just couldn't fall back to sleep. I was up. I was doing some mobility. I started eating. What I also did was I got 2 double shots of espresso from Starbucks the night before, and it's pretty gross, but just left them on the table, and they were pretty lukewarm to room temp in the morning, but I needed my caffeine. So I had that in the morning, had 2 PBJs, had protein bar, Martin carb bar. So I was definitely eating pretty aggressively before the race. But getting into like the actual race itself, some wind to take into account if you're running this one. Like I'm not like one of my buddies is super technical, was telling me, we're getting a northwest wind, like try and work behind somebody and draft them. And to me, like once I toe the line, I kind of black out. I looked at my watch. Everyone was saying, oh, the GPS is not very reliable. I did not manually click. I was going off of feel for the first half, and I just kind of wanted to see where I ended up at after 13.1. And I wasn't feeling great in the first 5 miles, to be honest. I was just kind of like, this is anticlimactic. This is like, I don't feel like I'm running fast. But I was clipping. I think after looking, I think it was like 126.59 was my first half. So seeing that on my watch, I was pretty confident that I was going to PR, knowing that I just had to run this back. And I think that's basically what I did. I did another like 127 and change in the back end. So it gave me like a sense of like, okay, my GPS is working correctly. I feel pretty good. And again, like my heart rate was there. My hard work doesn't really start until mile 18. And it was very similar to race strategy to Eugene. I just started a little more conservative in Eugene. I had a 130 or 131 first half and a 127 back half. This one was just 127, I believe. It was a 254. So definitely happy. I think, and I've told a few of my teammates this, I didn't have that like finisher, like primal, like go get it, snatch souls last 10K. I think my last 4K or 4 out of the last 10K I had that, like really like, all right, let's go do this thing, let's finish up. But the last 5K I just was bleeding out. I was literally like, I was hurting, my heart rate was skyrocketing. I just didn't feel like super enthused. It almost, again, like it's weird to say this because it's such a high energy race. Like when I was talking to my friends too, it was like 1.7 to 2 million spectators. Like the whole streets were lined, by far more crowded than Boston. Like Boston's, again, more congested. Like there's parts of the race where there's way more fans, but then there's parts of the race where there's no fans. So it's a little more blocky, whereas Chicago was right down the middle, fans every single part. It was almost like it was just there. Like you didn't even, it was like background noise at a certain point. Very, very busy race, 50,000, 45,000 runners. When you're taking turns, and I had said this in my vlog too when I was going through kind of the slideshow, but when you're taking turns, you got guys putting on the brakes, you're kind of meandering through people. When you're going to get a water, you don't know if that water is going to still be there by the time you get there because someone may come in and take it. There was the first or second aid station where I was actually, and I was running my Vapor Flask carbon fiber, and like I felt like a little slippage, and I was like, I had to like almost run like a penguin for a bit just to make sure that I wasn't going to slip and fall. Like it was very wet and just, people spilling and throwing and things like that. So just things to note. Do I think I had a faster race in me? Yes, I do. I think that I should be a 252, 251. I mean, I'm always gonna say that. The 259 in Eugene was like, I just had to beat the sub 3. Like that's all I cared about was just going sub 3, and that's what I did by like 35 seconds. This one I was like, okay, that achievement, the box is checked. The next achievement for me would be a BQ. BQ time qualifier is 255. I'm 254.38. I don't think I'm gonna make the cutoff for 2027. I really don't. People are getting way too fast. The shoes are better. The people are getting more strategic. People are getting more and more into this sport post-COVID. But I think it just gives me a little bit more momentum and more kind of fire in my belly for the next one, which I haven't really made any decisions on that yet. But overall, like again, minimal sunlight through the race. It was like 55, me being used to 80 degrees, 90% dew point, like this felt like I didn't shed like a bead of sweat until I was probably at mile 10. So that was a relief. I think for like my advice for someone who is considering running this one, I think this is my favorite race. I really do. I think there was a certain level of emotional aspect to Eugene. that can't be reproduced. But I think for this one, just high energy, like the feeling you get when you step into like even the expo and you're surrounded by all these people who are about to go do the same thing and have trained for whether it's 20 or 16 or 12 weeks. And there's so many different people at a world major, from like the micro influencers to the bigger guys to you got just like the everyday people who are coming out and it might be their first marathon. And you can feel the energy, you can feel the bug, and it makes you want to do it again and again and again. So I think that world major energy is very special, and it's not something that you get to recreate too often. And I think for me, coming off, I guess like this is my second full year of training, I would say, maybe 1.5, however you want to call it. Some people would say 1. You just want to be smart with your body and listen to it. And I think, coming through the finish line, I definitely was limping. I definitely have felt a lot of pain and soreness and tightness in my quads. I got the massage, went in the hot tub. I went for my first run yesterday. And I'm sorry if this is a lot. I'm throwing everything at you. I'm kind of just diarrhea of the mouth right now. I'm just still trying to digest all of it. But I want to run again. Like, I have more energy to run and train now than I did like before the race. And I'm just trying to tell myself, like, take a step back, listen to your body, know that there's plenty more races to come. I have this constant mentality about like time is our greatest asset. So like, how many, even if I like train my ass off, no matter what, I think like the most marathons I'm going to do in a year is 2. I think I'm not in a place where, I didn't run college cross country. I didn't really run until I was like 25, 27. So, just trying to be smart with that. Might mix in some different types of, aerobic, swim, bike, some yoga, but still feeling a little sore. Yesterday was tougher than I had originally thought it was going to be. I was definitely hurting. I was like 9:30 pace for a 10K, like an hour-long run. But going back, I want to focus on Chicago. Really beautiful city, so many places to eat. The food scene's amazing. The people are cool. The sports are great. If you get to catch a game, I would have probably gone an extra day earlier just to see the city, just for like, even if it was like a half a day, and not worry about the race till Friday. Like, I flew in Friday and I was instantly like, all right, it's business trip. Like, I trained my ass off for this. I want to eat. I want to fuel. I want to sleep. I want to hang out with my family, but like just enough. And I preface that. That's the other thing. This is a huge piece of advice. If you're bringing your family, or your family's meeting you, and you have a big goal and you've trained 16 to 20 weeks for it, just verbalize that to your family. They may not understand. And like, if they don't understand, they have to understand that they don't understand. And they can't be like, oh, well, look, I'll have a drink, or like, oh, come out with us. Our dinner's at 9. It's like, nah, I have to sleep. Like, yeah, maybe some people are better at that than I am, where you can go out till midnight and roll it the next day. I mean, we went to the Bandit Shakeout. That's another thing. Bandit did a phenomenal job throwing together a pop-up, a shakeout run. They gave out some stuff, some food afterwards, some coffee, etc. It was an 8 a.m. set. Like, we got in Friday night, we finished eating dinner at midnight, and it's an 8 a.m. turnaround for a shakeout. And, I got 6 hours of sleep that night too. So, thinking back at some of these things, and again, this is very scientific. This is I don't want to say scientific. This is very like next level thinking and taking it very seriously. Some people don't take it as seriously. But for me, when I'm putting in the time and the effort and the energy to get a PR, I want to make sure that I'm not cheating myself when I get there. So going back, yes, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, taking an extra day off of work, and like got to see the city a little bit more, maybe gone to like a Bulls game or something, like, or like obviously if the Cubs would be playing, I would have loved to see them at Wrigley. But major takeaways from the race: amazing energy, careful around the turns. I was calling out people like, right, like we're turning right, just to make sure everyone could kind of, strategically make a turn without stepping on each other's toes. Focused on the fast and flat. It's a good PR race. The weather is obviously a little bipolar like Boston, so I wasn't having any expectations, but It's a PR race. If you want to go out for a world major and get time, Chicago Marathon. The last thing is I know there's a time qualification. I think it's 3 or 2:55 now, but also get proactive with your charities. I emailed the head of the charity for Alzheimer's and I told her, I said, I want a bib. I've raised 10,000 for Boston. Here's my resume, blah, 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 blah. I've done this many marathons, blah, 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 blah. I got to meet her in person. It was really great. But like, don't be afraid to sell yourself to get a bib through charity if you are confident in being able to raise the funds. So that unlocked doors. I've been very unlucky this year. I was 0 for in lottery, 0 for New York, 0 for Tokyo, 0 for London, 0 for Berlin, 0 for Chicago. So 0 for 5, and didn't even try. Obviously Boston is time qualification or charity. I got a charity bib. So very unlucky here when it comes to charity. So I'm gonna have to get faster. We'll keep you guys posted on the next race. I think I'm gonna try to focus on half marathons for the spring, and then try to do New York or Berlin in the fall. So Chicago Marathon 2024 breakdown. Appreciate any likes, subscribe, any other questions in the comments. I'm happy to talk to you guys. Gary Shen, congratulations. I sent him out the Garmin that I gave away through the raffle. Appreciate you guys subscribing and commenting. That was pretty fun. Hoping to do another one again in 1,000 subs. So we're almost there. Take it easy.